Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Audionautic. My name is Kh3rtis.
And I'm Sunwarper.
I haven't seen you since before Christmas. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing great. Good Christmas, as good as it can be considering the times we're in. The shed got done, drywall's in, paint's done, baseboards, floor, everything. So I'm starting after this. I'm gonna be putting the desks in, the racks, and then probably do the synths and stuff tomorrow.
So Courtney ain't gonna see you. Courtney ain't gonna see you until tomorrow at the very earliest.
Probably next week.
Cool. All right. There's nothing quite like setting up your own rig once again, is there?
No, it's a little daunting though because I'm trying to think of like the best. Well, I guess I'm trying to think of the most optimal way of like getting everything in there, and then I want to have lights, to start doing live streaming and things like that. So, it's a little bit daunting trying to figure that out. And part of me just wants to throw everything in just so I can get back to it. But then the other part's like, this is a rare opportunity to like really make it the way you want to make it. So I want to be a little more planned out with it.
Okay, there. Like I imagine you'll get in there, you'll stick shit in, start playing, and then over the next couple of weeks, it'll kind of morph into where you want it to be.
That's the decision. It's like, do I want to like put it partially in, get to work, and slowly add stuff, or do I want to just really have a plan and execute it, like really put it in there properly? I'm debating. So we'll see once I put the desk in and a couple of other things today, I'll figure it out.
Cool. All right, that's what we need. I bet you life is too short for having plans, though. Just throw it in and go for it.
I don't know, man. That might be where you and I differ. I don't want to have to move it in like 2 weeks when I go, no, wait, I actually want everything this way.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. As a man who's moved
You
five
know
times...
me, unlike you, I plan things well in advance. You just go. Let's put it that way.
Go by the stars. Just go by the stars. But yeah, it's all good.
Now, what about you? How was your Christmas?
It was good. It was a quiet one, as obviously it was. But it was nice. It was like Ash's first Christmas ever, really, or proper Christmas. Right. With the family and all that, and that was nice. It was good. It was a good lesson in kind of like stopping. Usually I gorge, but this year I was like, nah, I'm okay. But it was good. It's good. I've been away. Like I've not been at the desk. Like last week or 2 weeks ago, I got this desk in and I got everything set up, but I haven't touched it. Like I've been so much has been going on before Christmas. I've just been completely portable. I have been wandering around the parks of Prague, taking samples and stuff and playing with a flip sampler, which is the best app I've ever come across. It's absolutely insane.
Oh yeah, I saw you post about that. I gotta check that out.
It's dude, it's great. It's what? It's $8. It's $8, and
yeah,
you get it's a full door. It's a fully fledged door, but it's based on sampling. So you've got 9 trigger pads, and you create samples for each one, and you can manipulate them, EQ them, effects. You can bit crush them, whatever you want to do. And dude, it's insane. It's insane.
That's sick. Yeah, I feel you though on like the forced break. It was difficult during the last like week or so to I mean, I did a little bit of like sitting at the desk and doing some synth, and I have my acoustic and I put it in. I've been testing out like open tunings and messing around with those. I haven't done that since like I was 18 or something, a couple like 10 years ago or 12 years ago, but yeah, I kind of, because I've had to do it out of necessity, I kind of feel what you were saying earlier about like getting antsy about it and really wanting to work, worried you're not going to get back to it. But as soon as you do, you realize, oh man, everything just pours out of you because you've been waiting. It's kind of like what Josh from Shady Ridge was saying, how it like, and even Fran from Force Robots, like when you take a break, it just kind of pours out of you.
Yeah, it's been nice. Like I sat down last night for the first time in about a week, and in my usual ritual, and it was just killer. There's
excessive amounts of coffee and just tweaking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Frantic banging on the table. But yeah, and it's just, I think it comes from that, like Josh said in the deep dive, I think that kind of that forced isolation. We'll get to Josh later, but the idea of, because you want to get it so much and you've got these ideas and you want to put them down and you can't, and you get to the table finally and it just pours out of you. It's beautiful. It is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, on the flip side, my anxiety is always like, if you don't write this down right now, you're going to forget it.
I know.
Like right? When I play guitar and I'm like, oh, this riff is cool. but I'll record it later, and then it's always never the same. Like the picking's off, or something's wrong.
And it's trapped in time. Like I'm slowly, again, I'm slowly coming across to that realization of things being trapped in time, and not focusing so much on getting it perfectly right. Like if I'm improvising on the synth or something like that, and I go, oh shit, that's really cool, I could use that. I can never do it again. I used to get so angry about that, and nowadays I'm just kind of like, okay, fine, it is what it is. Say la vie, For Christmas on my Bandcamp, I put out Icarus for free, name your price. And it's all scratches. It's all scratches from Ableton. I've gone and done a bit of tweaking here and there, but the main lines, they're all just solos off the cuff, And that is true. There is something to go for.
And it works. That song's great, man.
Yeah. Speaking of great, our first artist on this third rotation of Audionautic was actually Jupiter. And it was very enlightening, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. There was a lot to take away from that. There's things both like creatively, but also socially. Like for me, one of the things I really liked, and I mentioned it in the outro of the episode, but he talked about sending a unique message to every new follower. I think it kind of offsets that whole idea of follow for follow, and then as soon as you follow back, they unfollow you. Like all that game stuff that is just ridiculous in social media and means nothing.
Completely. The idea of, like, say, an individual message to all these people that you're speaking to, because I don't know about you, but when I found the group, when you find the people that are making the same stuff as you, or making similar stuff to you, that you want to work with, even opening up and saying, hey, how's it going? There's that voice at the back of your brain that's going, you know what, or imposter syndrome, I think they call it. It's the they think you're going to use someone as an asset, that kind of thing, and really you just kind of want to chat to a nice guy, and hearing it from Jupes anyway kind of broke down that anxiety and that sense of, you gotta stick your head out there. You gotta go talk to people and give more than you take. Support your fellow dude or dudette, and it's got to go from there.
Yeah, I really think that humanizing element is missing in a lot of social media interaction, because it becomes all about the likes and the follows and this and that, and all of that is just arbitrary and means nothing. Like when you really get down to it, music is about connection, and when you play it like that, you're just trivializing the connection and trying to game it.
Yeah, and it's this gamification that has been perpetuated in the modern day. I mean, we've spoken about it before. We're not going to go down that line, but that kind of feeds into it. You're saying you're establishing a connection with someone not because they're a human being with raw talent that you would adore. You kind of want to take assets from that, and you got to break down that barrier. You got to see it for the long game. I'm still seeing people talking about going viral, and going and stuff like that. It's just so unsustainable. The human connections that you can make through by just chatting with your fellow muso, it's priceless.
Yeah. Now let's subtly flip subjects, because Jupiter isn't just a social media guru. He is an excellent musician. So did you take anything away personally when he was talking about his creative process?
Yeah, when he was talking about his creation, when he was just jamming, the idea that he sticks a visual of all things up on the wall and just plays to that, blew my mind, really, to be honest.
Man, likewise. Yeah. You and I got the same note, I guess.
Yin and yang,
Did we share notes or something, man?
No,
shoot.
Definitely not. Definitely not. No. But I've been trying to implement it, and in a very, very poor way at this stage, as everything is at the beginning. But it in the sense of pushing your creative boundaries, it's something else.
Yeah, it's another avenue of creative exploration, and like not starting from zero, but you're starting with something. Like rather than just sitting at a keyboard and staring at it, or staring at a blank, DAW, you are starting with something. There's an image, and you are now trying to soundtrack that image. And I think that ties in nicely with what Howard from Eonlake talks about with the whiteboard.
14 minutes, 32 seconds, you brought up the whiteboard. Go.
You know me, man. I really like that whiteboard idea. Now that the shed's done, I'm going to order a whiteboard.
You can't see at home, but his eyes are gleaming.
No, I just think everybody needs ways of working around creative dilemmas and writer's block, and whatever clicks with you. Like with Jupiter, and it sounds like with you, something that really works is looking at a piece of media and being like, well, how can I convey this emotion I'm feeling from this through music, and going from there. Another idea is like what Howard does, where he just has these ideas pop in his head, like, oh, only write a song based around 2 chords, or, you know, do all these crazy modular things that create a synth sound, but then put it through a vocoder, or make it drums, or do that, you know, just like crazy ideas that are so out there, but it's a great starting point that you can then just like get in the zone and just start working on stuff.
Completely. This, like you say, these rules, so to speak, that you have to stick to, whatever they are. Like he mentioned, you can't keep your first 4 or 5 loops.
Oh yeah,
that one.
Yeah.
Just like you can put so much effort into building those first 4 or 5, and then the idea that you have to scrap them. It's just such discipline, such kind of what's the phrase I'm looking for? Just yeah, like I say, so they're so disciplined in the sense that you have to do these things, and that forces you into a creative space that you've never been before. And at that point, anything is possible, and that's just, isn't that where you want to be?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about getting out of comfort zones, but I also think that one you talked about, the ditch the first 5 tracks, is the 2-for-1, because you then have a new song you can do with those 5 tracks. And he even mentioned that. He's like, oh, I don't scrap them. You know, I may use them for, and I don't know if that might have just been an example. I don't know if he actually made a song out of that. I mean, he has some really cool starting points that he talked about, so he could have, or he's going to. But yeah, you get 2 songs out of that, basically.
And it's an interesting way to go on it, you know. And it's I mean, I take it you've already started looking at whiteboards on Amazon.
Yeah, before I spring for the whiteboard, I want to do some sound treatment and like proper placement of things in the room. So I haven't opted just yet for a whiteboard, but I'm getting there. They're
good to go. I mean, I've always got these notebooks lying around, and they're full of notes and stuff like that. And I've never really kind of, I always write down these notes, but I never kind of really follow through with them. I'm terribly undisciplined, as you very well know. But since Eonlake, speaking to Howard, just this idea of going back through them and going down and like ticking them off the list one by one, it's incredibly cathartic. So like I say, setting these rules, sticking to them, following through to the end. It feels like a level up.
So what are some of these things you had? Well, I should say first, when did you start writing like these notes? A couple of years ago, or fairly recently?
These notebooks go back to about 2016, 2017.
Okay.
It's basically the start of Kh3rtis. As you know, Kh3rtis is a story before he was in music.
Right.
And they all come from the different bits. And I mean, it's brain farts. You know, you stick them down there and you kind of put them through, and they seem important at the time. And I mean, I was going back through 2018 and just going back through them, and just as you know, I've been playing around with Ableton a lot more, and live looping a lot more, that kind of thing, and sticking them in and going from that and using that as a springboard. It's just kind of over the past kind of 3-4 months since the end of rotation 2, beginning of rotation 3, and we started, like I say, there's been that shift in process, and it's become a lot more disciplined and a lot more kind of structural in that sense. And again, very Brian Eno-y. This idea of there are no right or wrong rules kind of thing. Trying not to put myself in a box and trying to push him out, that kind of thing. It's cool. It's good fun.
I think it depends on the person, but you know, it doesn't have to be a whiteboard. It can be notebooks, whatever. But I'm inclined to agree with Howard in that having something like pasted to your wall that you can always refer to, you know, with just a quick glance. You don't have to dig through pages and pages of notes or something, like just quick and easy.
It's like he says he's always doing it on the go, and I think that's
he does it on his phone or something, I think too, right? And then he like transfers it, and
I think that's important in its own right. Like the idea of, especially as we continue on in the real world, keep balance away from the music. You know, this idea of, you know, you could just be at the bus stop, or you could be walking through the park and you put it there.
Well, even like you're doing with what it's called, flip.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same thing. Like you may have had some forced exile from your desk, but you haven't been completely away from music. You've been doing something creative, working that side of your brain, getting samples, putting them together, adding effects. It's still exercising that aspect of your mind.
This is true. I mean, as a sonic junkie, I must get my fix somehow. It's got to happen. It's got to happen.
Yeah.
In a similar vein to the idea of a forced exile, again, another very influential thing that I took away from Josh from Shady Ridge Records was his forced exile that he takes for a couple of months on end.
Yeah, how crazy is that? I mean, I'm glad we got to clarify that with him, because I know you were sweating when he said, he just takes time away and doesn't touch his guitars, doesn't touch anything, and you had to jump in to clarify for your own self that he is not fully away from music. He does play guitar and stuff like that to a degree, but he doesn't from what I got from it, he doesn't record or write down anything. So if he comes up with a riff, he better hopes he remembers it in 3 weeks or 3 months.
Yeah. And that,
because I think, didn't he mention that he wants to get like a little cassette recorder or something?
Yeah, he mentioned it because he wanted to get some scratches of some of his riffs that he's been writing down.
Yeah, it's interesting. So it's almost like time away from the computer and the usual setup. Let's put it that way.
Breaking away from the...
Yeah, oh, dude, jinx. I was going to say breaking the monotony, and you go breaking away.
Yin and yang, bro. Yin and yang.
Yeah.
Go on, you do it then. You take it. I'll go from there.
No, man, it's all you.
Let's say breaking away and trying new things and getting out of the shed. If we're going to start using the shed as a metaphor for these things.
Whoa. No, we're going in the shed, man.
Well, we got to step in. I think Josh brought it up really well. This idea of balance, and we had these discussions during our last deep dive, and this idea of balancing and stepping away from it. And me, I'm kind of like, no, got to be done.
Not anymore.
And I find it's forced at this stage, but then, like I said to you, I came back and I was kind of like, yeah, all right, I understand in a way. It's taking time away, stepping away from the synth, and doing other things, getting stuff that I need to get done, putting food on the table, for example, and then having this, and then coming back and being not just rewarded is the wrong phrase, but being kind of knowing that you've kind of earned your peace, you've earned your catharsis. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Not only that, I think like you put it, it's a catharsis because you've been holding all that stuff. I don't want to say repressed, but like you haven't had the chance to exercise it, to get it out. So now you're sitting there and all those ideas that probably would have popped through your head are now just like trying to get out.
Completely. I mean, you've got this with your new setup, your kind of temporary on the go setup, isn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's getting old. Let's put it. But I did add some like novelty to it when I started working with a couple of my synths again, and I got that new synth. But it's just like, it's the space of it. Like there's just nowhere to put stuff here. So, I mean, in one sense, it's really novel trying to figure out like, okay, I have a desk that's like super tiny, so I can fit 1 or 2 synths, and then I have my MIDI keyboard on a rack. So like you have to be creative, but yeah.
But when you get into the shed, when you get in there and you set it up, it's just that I can only imagine just the peace and the shift of psyche that's going to exist. That's where you're going to be.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean it's a nice way to gain some gratitude for the things you take for granted. Like at my old place, I had everything just laid out. Whenever I wanted to play, something, I could just grab it. And then now I've been forced to not have most of that stuff just sitting in a shed. No, it's not sitting in the shed. It's sitting in storage while the shed is just empty, taunting me. So now, like you're saying, you're totally right. Like once I get that stuff in, I'll have a new sense of gratitude. Like, oh man, I can just grab this. I can just turn it on and play it. Like I don't have to dream about it while it wastes away in storage. Like, no, it's just right there.
It's gonna be good. I mean, they have it all there, and it's like Josh said, it's part of the process that you get. You take your step away and then you come back to it, and that was a big revelation for me. Me and you had words. We had words about the creative process when we talked about this in the deep dive, and yeah, and I've come full circle from it, you know.
We all have our ways, and I think it's important to know if you're doing something out of fear, like if you're being compelled to do something due to fear, it's probably not the right way.
Probably not. We'll have to see. But that's what I mean. Like, you know, that's what I love about these kind of rotations. Like, I mean, obviously making the podcast Audionautic is great, but then all this stuff that kind of comes through, you realize you bounce off what other people are doing, and you grow as an individual and a muso. And yeah, forever grateful for it. Forever grateful.
I mean, that's the whole point. And it's all about learning. It's always about learning more than you know, and being willing to, like what you did with your forced exile stuff, being willing to change your perspective and opinion.
Completely. And if you're stuck in your ways, not growing, like, I mean, you know, you've got to...
Stagnation is deadly.
In the similar vein to that, the idea that, you know, these people that we meet and these people that we work with and bounce off of are humans. They quickly become your family, which is another thing which Josh was so enthused about on Shady Ridge Records, at the fact that they got each other's back. And while the idea itself might not be revolutionary, it ticks in and just hones in. We're coming towards the end of 2020, you know, and this has been the year, for me at least, this has been the year at least of the group. This has been the year where I've stuck my neck out, found a load of other people that are doing the same thing. Started with you, and it's kind of gone on from there on out. The idea of not just understanding the humans behind the avatars, but also linking up with them, dealing with them, leaning on them, and getting it done, you know?
And like, learning from them.
And learning from them, exactly.
Like, I know I already brought it up, but like I can't tell you how much growth I've had just working like with you, with Matt, well, with both Matts, with Amanda, like everybody, and being on our Discord, the Audionautic Discord, and like the ambient support group from Scarless Arms, things like that. It, like, just even away from the aspect of sharing your music or anything like that, or like having a group you can all discuss your music with, it's like talking one-on-one with these people. You really learn something from it. And even like while we talk with them on Audionautic, like what we're doing with Eonlake and Jupiter and Shady Ridge, like you learn something from each of them. It's all a learning process, and I think that is what 2020 taught me, is that you can it is very good to work with people, even if not in terms of collaboration. Like, it's very beneficial to just talk with people about their process. Like, I keep going back, like you and I, we started by just talking about our processes. I was talking to you about your looping setup, and, you know, then we started talking about mixing and mastering and this and that, and then we collabed, and yeah.
It goes from there. And like, I always come back to it, Rome wasn't built in a day. Like, we didn't just go, you know what, we didn't just like, I didn't just message you going, collab, bro. I didn't do that. You know, and you don't need to do that. And patience is key. There's been so much good, not just through Audionautic, not just through the ambient group. I mean, there's headphone music. There's all these we're all this big mesh of Twitter, you know, it's all big mesh of musos, and everyone's connected by 6 degrees of separation. But the amount of just raw talent that's come out from this year alone is insane. And I just simply cannot wait to kind of see what goes on in 2021.
And with that, we end Rotation 3 and 2020 for the Audionautic podcast.
We will be back next week with another radio broadcast, which if you want to submit your tracks to, feel free to drop us an email at audionauticsounds@gmail.com, or just hit us up on DM. The week after that, we'll be back with our deep dive. And for this week, we're putting our marketing hat on. We'll be talking about releases, press kit, submissions to playlists and radio.
And be sure to keep an eye out in early 2021 for the next evolution of Audionautic.
Going to be exciting. Are you going to tell us what's it about?
Nope. You got to keep an eye out.
Finally, a massive thank you to all of those who have tuned in, listened, supported us, and just generally been awesome over our first kind of half a year that we've been doing this. It means the absolute world.
Yeah, we appreciate everyone who supported us, and we can't wait to share with you what's next in 2021.